I was randomly reminded of this story today. This was from a while ago when I started playing D&D. It was set in a homebrew world, and we were a party of 3 first-time players. Through circumstances I don't remember, I was granted a pair of binoculars. These binoculars gave me advantage on all sight-based perception checks. I was super excited about them because, well, they're binoculars. Who wouldn't be excited? Our characters were standing somewhere and noticed a weird scene on a far-off hill. My character, of course, took out her newly acquired binoculars to see what was happening. He asked me for a perception check, and I rolled a natural 20. He then proceeds to describe how my character looks under the hood of one of the characters on the hill. That character, unbeknownst to me, was Death, and as soon as my character saw his face, her binoculars broke and she suffered cold damage. Then the DM starts laughing at me and says, "Why would you look at Death's face?" I didn't ask to look at his face, you moron. You narrated my character doing it, and then you proceeded to laugh at me for an action you made my character do. Anyway, it was something that happened a long time ago, and I no longer talk to this person for various other reasons. But sometimes I think back on the story and I feel intense anger. I really liked those binoculars. Sometimes characters do dumb stuff, and DMs have those gotcha moments. But sometimes, DMs will just force characters to do reasonable things so they can have those gotcha moments in a dumb way. Great. This DM should really pat himself on the back for that one. Next level railroading. This is less of a horror story and more of an extreme annoyance that's kind of funny in retrospect. Several years ago, I had an RPG group in my hometown that I would play with periodically when I was home from college. Most of the group were my friends from high school, but the DM, Matt, was a few years older than us and invited some people he knew. One of them was Kyle. Kyle was mostly unremarkable when I first met him. The homebrew system campaign had already been going on for several sessions when I joined. He was playing a pretty standard fighter type character, but he was always trying to use a bow when in melee combat. This is, of course, not the most optimal strategy, but he would get mad at us, or usually DM Matt, when his attacks would miss, sometimes insinuating Matt had made the system wonky in order to specifically screw with him. Oh well, guy's not like a min-maxer, probably for the best. We finished up a campaign and start a new one. He tells us his new character is going to be this disgraced drunk priest trying to redeem himself. I think that sounds cool. Session 1 arrives, the party assembles for the heist or whatever the adventure was, and Kyle has yet to speak. Kyle, what's your character doing? Probably just at the bar drinking. I have no reason to join the group. We all look at each other, confused. He knows that this is a cooperative game, right? I've since encountered this type of player multiple times, and I've heard about them from other people, but this was my first experience with it. We ignore him for the time being and dick around the starting town for a bit looking for plot hooks and such. Matt periodically asks Kyle if he's going to join the group, and Kyle just keeps saying he has no reason to. We should have confronted Kyle directly about this, but at the time our philosophy was that this was an in-character issue and needs to be dealt with in character. Combat starts at some point, and Kyle's character joins the fray. Afterwards, we try to engage him, but he says he runs off because he has no reason to speak with us. Okay, now this is just complete nonsense. We just fought a literal battle together, and you don't want to say a single word to us? We decide Kyle is a lost cause and move on with the plot. But Kyle says he is going to follow the party at a distance. So his character has no reason to speak with us or travel with us, but apparently he does have a reason to tail us. There's another combat on the road at some point, and he does the exact same thing. Runs in to help with the fight, then runs away the second it's over. This happens later for a third time, but our characters confront him and ask what he's doing. He, out of character, says something like, "Well, if you guys are going to force me to join, fine." What? I return to college, but I regularly talk to my friends in the group. They regale me with stories of similar garbage he continues to pull while I'm away. About a year later, I'm back home, and Matt wants to return to the first campaign after a time skip. This would put Kyle's fighter pushing 60 years old. So Kyle wants to make a new character, but wants the fighter to go out in a blaze of glory. Not an unreasonable request, in my opinion, since other people also wanted to make new characters. Matt decided to do a one-shot prequel to set up the time skip and allow anyone who wants to retire their characters to do so in that session. The general plot was that there were two factions of angels who were at war and threatened to destroy the world. So we, the heroes, well, we were gathering artifacts and such to be able to fight against them. The whole session, Kyle is going on about how awesome his death is going to be. We reach a temple that we knew the angels couldn't enter for some reason, which was clearly the end point of the session. As we approach, we are ambushed by cultists and an actual angel, which we knew from experience we had no chance of killing. It's exceedingly obvious to the rest of the table that Kyle is meant to sacrifice himself to stall the angel while we run past the safe zone. On Kyle's turn, he drops everything and runs for the temple. I don't remember all of what happened next, but the mood was basically ruined, especially when we end the session and Kyle says, "Well, I guess I won't be getting a cool death after all." Kyle, you were supposed to sacrifice yourself fighting a super powerful angel to protect your friends. That's not cool. Why would I do that? Kyle then spends the next weeks asking when we're going to have another session so he can get his cool death. We don't play for a long time after that. And when Matt finally starts again, myself and the rest of the group beg him not to invite Kyle, which he doesn't. I play a few sessions of this before once again being absent for a while. One weekend, I'm back in town and jump into the game for a session. Guess what? Kyle is there. I should have left when I saw him. This would be the most infuriated I've ever been during a session. First off, Kyle clearly hasn't prepared a character. He blames this on Matt for refusing to help him. However, I know for a fact he's had access to character creation info for months because we're in the same Facebook group where Matt sent it to us. He eventually decides he wants to play a fighter. Again, then he starts constantly interrupting the session to ask what his abilities are. Again, he has full access to this information. He then, once again, refuses to just join the party. Like an idiot, I decide to handle this in character and I'm basically begging this random guy to join our group hunting down a hag. And he just keeps saying, "Nah, why would I do that? I have no reason to do that." He then, once again, follows our group and camps with our group but refuses to talk to us because he has no reason to. The final straw comes when we finally find the hag we're hunting and he joins the hag because he has no reason to help us, but apparently does have a reason to help this lady. You know, the lady that we know is kidnapping children. This was not the sort of plot twist that he and Matt cooked up because Matt was just as confused. We end the session there because it was getting late. We probably shouldn't have started the combat anyway. I tell Matt that if he's going to keep on playing with Kyle, then don't bother inviting me. Another year or more goes by. I've been back home permanently from college, playing with Matt fairly regularly, and haven't heard anything from Kyle. I show up to a session one night, and guess who walks in? It's Kyle. I shake my head. Whatever, not like I have anything better to do tonight. We're playing 5th edition. Kyle clearly hasn't even thought about looking at the player's handbook. He doesn't have a character prepared. He's once again interrupting the session to ask basic questions. A couple people at the table try to help him in between turns, but he won't even give us the most basic information about what kind of character he wants to play. And once more, he won't join the party. Matt says, "Okay, Kyle, the party's leaving town." But I have no reason to be with the party. I don't know what they're doing. I'm hanging out in the tavern. After several years, I finally realized Nuance is not going to accomplish anything with this 30-year-old man and say, "Kyle, this is a role-playing game, and you can do what you want, but the party is leaving. If telling us that you're just going to hang out in the tavern repeatedly is your idea of fun, that's fine, but the players are leaving." "Well, okay, when you put it that way," he says in a defeated voice, like I just refused to give him a puppy for Christmas. He spent the session doing nothing, but occasionally commenting that he was carrying a barrel of beer he stole from the tavern on his back. I just don't understand how these people have fun. OP, I am completely with you on that front. How Kyle enjoys just sitting back and being, I don't know, a lazy bum in a tavern is just, well, it's just baffling to me. Now, I understand that sometimes you have to suspend your disbelief in D&D as to why these people are working together. Sometimes there isn't too much party cohesion and the DM kind of has to use some fiat to get everyone to work together. But it's not really that crazy of a suspension of disbelief that the players get together to play the game, because at the core of it, the players need to get together. The party needs to form for this game to happen. Jenny D made a great video a while ago about 9 reasons for players to join the party if you want some ideas, but honestly, I don't know if that video would help Kyle here. This is years of BS from this guy. Why the DM keeps Kyle around is beyond me. It's not like he's contributing anything to the games in the first place, but I mean, at least the OP said something about it. That's good. This went down in my local area's D&D group, where you can post if you're looking for a player, DM, or if you're looking for a table, player. A DM posted saying that he had a spot open at his table, but he wanted a female for balance because the table were all males. But he also added this with a dark and edgy homebrew, which on its own wasn't a huge deal, but paired up with the whole looking for female thing, it didn't sit well with me, and I initially just scrolled past it. Several women pointed out that having one woman at a table of 6 was not balanced, and the DM responded that he was trying to create a more diverse table and seemed completely oblivious to any suggestions that having over 80% of the table being men wasn't adding much diversity, and refused to answer why he was so adamant on having a woman at the table. Other commenters, men who were looking for a table, were upset and called sexism because they were being excluded due to their gender, as tables in this area are largely hard to come by unless you offer to host at your house. My spidey senses started to go off as to why he was adamant on having a woman at the table after it was pointed out that it wasn't actually going to bring much diversity to the table, and I think the same happened for several other prospective players. A woman commented that even though she was a woman, she was weary of joining this particular table, and a few other women posted that they were in the same boat, also not wanting to join, so I suggested we form our own group, and someone volunteered to DM. The DM then proceeded to go on a rant in the comments about how he was trying to be a good person by including more women into his game, and instead we were segregating ourselves. He then deleted the entire post and then reposted, saying there was one spot at his table, free, nothing about gender, etc. No takers just yet, but I'm sure someone, especially the men that were initially excluded, they will sign up. The group that I formed had our session 0 last night, and it went really well. A short one, but a weird one to say the least. I invite people to my games personally, and I usually try to pick people that I think will just fit into the game I'm trying to run. Putting out an LFG post looking specifically for women in an in-person game with dark and edgy humor, I don't know. It could be great. It could be an awesome, fun, gothic horror game or something like that. Or it could really suck. The real big warning sign for me was the rant in the comments afterwards. If the guy just took it in stride, took down his post, no complaining, no whining, I think that this wouldn't be too bad of a horror story. It was just a dude who could not read the room. But here, this is a guy who not only could not read the room, but tried to burn it down in the process. But anyway, with that being said, I hope that OP has a good time in her game. It can be hard to get groups started sometimes, and it's always good to see new groups forming. For a bit of context, I have horrible social anxiety and I struggle with autism, closest to what would have been classified as Asperger's syndrome. I am also a forever DM most of the time. I rarely get the chance to play. Most importantly, all of the players are women, and the DM is a man. I joined my friend's Dungeons & Dragons game about a month or two ago now, which was a massive undertaking for me, as I had been socially isolated from a lot of people during the 2-year lockdown in my state. I wanted to try and make some new friends, while bonding with one I met during a separate tabletop RPG meetup. He is the DM, and has been very supportive of me during all of the crap that's been happening. The other 2 players had standard races for D&D, being from sourcebooks, while myself and the DM had agreed that it would be okay for me to use a homebrewed race since I had more experience as a whole and knew the mechanics behind 5th edition D&D. However, with what I have to go off, I think that they may have seen that as favoritism, which is strange because they've had their characters for far longer than I had my player character, and made their characters when they were less experienced with the game and the rules. Out of game, after about the 3rd session I had attended, I was told by the DM that these players were angry with me, and did not want me to show up at the next game. I was hurt and didn't want to argue. However, somehow, one of the other players had gotten my phone number and texted various amounts of hurtful, possibly abusive language involving various forms of name-calling and threats. This is after I told them that I struggle with social cues and need more than passive-aggressive in-game remarks to improve. This other player, well, she proceeds to go off on a tangent about how I was only using that as an excuse to get blame off of me. I had specified in the same text beforehand that it was an explanation, and I never wanted it to be seen as an excuse. The DM caught wind of this and was rather pissed off at the ordeal, telling them in essence to cut that out. I abided by their wishes to not go to the next session, which according to my DM wasn't even a session at all, and they never went past just small talk. I show up the week after, and the player who texted me various painful things, well, she was back. The second player has been gone, and isn't returning until next week, as of me posting this. I tried to show I meant no ill will, and that I genuinely genuinely wanted to work things out by talking to the DM about what I can change and asking, to no response, what the player wanted me to do better on. I tried this up until a week ago, wanting to improve my character as to not damper their experience while keeping my own to at least a semblance of fun. During these weeks, this player has said hurtful things at a volume just loud enough that both myself and the DM can hear it, which have been insults about my weight, my hair, how I talk, and any jokes I try to make to just lighten the damn mood. The DM has threatened this player multiple times now. They will be kicked out of the game entirely if they continue this. As of me writing this, they've gone on a tangent about how I was trying to buy their friendship because I painted miniatures, one of my attempts to show that I didn't hold anything against them, and told the other player, who hasn't even been present at these games for the entirety of July, to grow a pair, in what I can only assume to be some sort of manipulation to get the other players to be as antagonistic as she is. I'm tired, hurt, and most of all, burnt out of trying to be helpful or nice. I just don't even know why I tried in the first place, if I'm being honest. At least the DM is trying his best to help, even if things are looking glum. What makes this all the worse is that this player has been longtime friends with the DM. TLDR, I joined a friend group that I joined a friends group that they're running in an attempt to socialize and have fun. Quickly turns into me being a target by one of the players, while myself and the DM are dumbstruck on what to do and both hurt by this player's actions. Update! The DM is going to tear into this woman and tell her that he's fed up with her garbage. Chances are that this entire campaign goes into the bin, but he's told me that he's ashamed of not knowing sooner. I do not blame him in the slightest. It sucks, but if he didn't know, he didn't know, and is going to firmly put his foot down on this behavior. I will not be attending any games if I know this lady is there. This isn't some sort of passive-aggressive remarks or just a person acting distant. This lady is straight up bullying the OP. I mean, harassing, spreading rumors, that sort of thing is unacceptable. I mean, hell, if I'm reading this correctly, the lady is bullying her at the table in earshot of the DM. I'm sorry, but if I hear that kind of thing, the game stops. We are supposed to be working together to create a story as a group. If I hear somebody talking shit in earshot, unacceptable. Not just because it's a dick move, but also because it's gonna completely ruin the vibe of the group. How are you supposed to play D&D while somebody is getting bullied right here at the table? I understand that the DM is trying to manage the situation, but good lord, the second I hear insults flying at my table, and the moment I realize that the person isn't stopping, I'm sorry, they've gotta go. Look, I'm not gonna pretend like these sort of conflicts are easy to resolve, but I just can't imagine being completely passive while somebody is saying such incredibly rude remarks at your game table. I still can't wrap my head around that part. But anyway, yeah, it's sad when a campaign goes to the bin, but as I've said many times, in this case, it's probably for the best. Hello Reddit, this will be my first ever post, so sorry if the formatting isn't right or if I spell anything wrong. I have dyslexia and the program I use doesn't always pick up the mistakes. Also, this might be a long post and story. Our tale begins long ago in a galaxy far, far away. I was playing in a local game store when I saw an ad for a first-time D&D group who want to run a homebrew Star Wars game. I always wanted to try D&D. I put my name down, and later that day I got a call saying that we were going to be playing every Sunday. Our game master told us that the story would be taking place after Return of the Jedi. The Empire had fallen, though it was still around trying to fill in the power vacuum. I liked the idea, and the GM said there would also be no Force users allowed. I thought it was going to be a great time, and I was looking forward to meeting my new group at Session 0. However, when I got there, I learned that the other new players had bullied the first-time DM into letting them play as Force users anyway. Now, I know that that is a huge red flag, but I was new, and I just thought that the others were, excited. However, when we started chatting about our character ideas, the three other players were already boasting about how they were going to be the most powerful Jedi, even at level 1. However, the worst of them was Blue. She was the only woman at the table, and had the other two players, Greedo and Maul, falling over her. A rundown of what they ended up playing. Maul was a Zabrak Sentinel Berserker and was pretty much a murder hobo. Greedo was a Rhodian Guardian, and Blue was a Twilight Counselor. I was just a male Mandalorian called Sebastian Vizsla. We've got Pre-Vizsla, Paz Vizsla, Tar Vizsla, and then we've got Sebastian over here. Anyway, after Session 0, things went smoothly. We do a couple of missions, save a girl, and bring her back to the family, kill a bandit leader, and get into a couple of fights with Star Wars animals. I get my animal symbol, that of a Nexu. It was all going well, and we got to level 5, where things began to turn dark. I had just gotten some Beskar parts for my armor, helmet, bracers, and chest, and some weapon upgrades like a flamethrower and a jetpack, while all the Jedi were saving up and pooling their credits to get lightsabers. Blue was the first one to get one. When I came back to the group with my new armor and weapons, she asked, "Why don't you help save up for our lightsabers? Because it was the better weapon than the stupid Mandalorian gear." I told her, my credits are mine and I can spend them how I see fit. She got really mad, and so did the others. The session ended not long after, and Blue told me that if I don't sell my weapons and gear, she would kill my character, and the other guys said they would help her. I told her, no. I then went to the GM, who said, "Well, this game's open world, and I allow player infighting, and the players killing players makes the game more fun and real." I asked, "If that happens, am I able to, kill them?" And he said, "Yes, but that would be very unlikely." In the next session, Blue came up to me and asked if I was going to hand over my gear and weapons to her, and I said, no. And she then sat down on the other side of the table, texted what I think were the others, and just waited for the game to start. I knew she was going to try the session to kill my character. After all, in the words of Han Solo, I had a bad feeling about this. The game started. We had just gotten done with a long rest after killing a group of bandits, and were heading back to the ship when Blue stopped to ask me once again, "Give up your armor and gear, and we will let you live. If not, we will have no choice but to kill you." I told them once again, no. And the fight breaks out. I get the first turn, and I use my jetpack to get the high ground and get away from all their melee attacks. I then shoot both Maul and Greedo first because they don't have lightsabers and have low armor class. I'm able to burn Greedo with a flamethrower and kill Maul with a headshot, while they try to kill me with saber throws and jump attacks. The last one was Blue. I didn't attack her because she had the lightsaber, which in the GM's game could deflect blaster bolts back at the user. After I managed to down Maul, Blue got behind me and threw her saber at me and managed to send me crashing down in the dirt and taking 20 damage. She then proclaims she runs over and kills me. The GM also changed the lightsaber rules to always hit, and they would do 4d20 damage. But here, the GM says, "Oh, no, OP as Beskar, you need to roll to hit." She is turning red with anger, and then she rolls a nat 1. The GM laughs and said, "So as you go to strike the Mandalorian, just in the last second, he pulls up his arm bracers and the lightsaber bounces off and slashes your eyes blind. You take 20 damage." Okay. The GM said it was my turn. I used my blaster to attack 2 times. Blue almost yells that he can't do that because it would bounce off. The GM says that she can't defend because she can't see. I'm able to blast her hand, then her foot. She goes down one knee while her lightsaber is on the floor. She spends her next turn trying to find it, and when she can, she tries to force choke me, but she misses. I then, on my turn, grab the lightsaber and cut her head off. After this fight, a screaming match starts with Maul and Greedo both mad at me and the GM for allowing this to happen, and Blue is just sitting there crying after 4 minutes of yelling at one another, and the store manager telling the 2 guys to leave, and we end the game. After this game, I didn't even want to play D&D, and to be honest, I feel like a huge asshole. So Reddit, do you think I'm an asshole? I feel like my answer to that question that OP just asked should be rather obvious, but I guess drumroll please? Not the asshole! Obviously. Look, there is so much happening in the story. I mean, first and foremost, Blue and the other 2 players. We got 2 simps and a player who initiate PvP with the intent to kill another player character. First and foremost, bad form. I get that PvP is part of a lot of D&D games, but this is an absolute dick move. Trying to force another player to sell all their gear that they rightfully earned in the game is, well, it's very mean. I'm trying to describe it in a less childish way, but Blue seems like a childish person, so I don't think I should even bother. Also, if you're going to do PvP with the intent to kill, you better be ready to, I don't know, lose the fight, which happened in this case. To be fair, there was a little bit of DM fiat there at the end, nat 1 blinding with 20 points of damage. Well, that does seem a little bit much. I have no idea what's up with the DM here. I know someone is going to be click-clacking with the comments saying that the GM had a master plan to covertly punish the other players for initiating this PvP, but I think the GM is just bad at their job. If you really want to solve this issue, you talk about it out of game. That's how you solve out of game problems like childish behavior from Blue and the other 2 guys. But whatever the case, OP is definitely not the asshole in this situation. This is especially the case since the OP went to the DM to try and solve this out of game. I mean, that's a really, really great move. More than just winning the combat. So honestly, good on him all around. And that is where we are going to end today's episode of RPG Horror Stories. If you guys enjoyed it, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of my content, then you can check out our Tabletop Tavern Tip series where we go over advice for both DMs and players, old and new, And while you're there in the cards, subscribe to Crispy's Tavern to get more of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down to the comments down below. If you cannot think of a comment, leave the comment, you lost the fight, to let me know you made it to the end of the video. Next is like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.